number of teachers taking the Minerva courses has skyrocketed in the last 3 years. I guess it was now 3 years ago that I took my first course, and I've seen the numbers and sections really go up. So it's spread really by word of mouth, and what I've seen after the first year is teachers come back year after year and bring their friends.
Because for a long time I have felt that staff development has sort of gone over to the process side entirely too much. Like, it's technology on how to use this and how, you know, the reading process, and I think that's all great, but what's gone away, at least in English, is any content course where we get a chance to sit down and read Dante together, or read Milton, or read Madame Bovary.
I have very rarely been to a class on methods and how to teach that I've been able to use. I've sat through, this is my 7th year in a public school teaching, I've sat through probably hundreds of hours of this is what you should be doing in a classroom, and not all of it to me is real world. This tends to be real world.
To assume that a teacher is done learning when they're 21 years old in their undergraduate education, I think is false. And we should, as teachers, continually learn our own content. And most of us as professionals, we do that. But to have the structure in a district to take Minerva courses to offer really high quality teaching and learning materials is a wonderful opportunity for teachers of any subject area to continue to learn. And my students, they know when I'm taking a course, I talk about it, you know, in my class, and sometimes they ask, you know, well, why do you take that? You teach violin. What does that, you know, mean to you? And if I'm able to draw connections to Carnatic music and Hinduism and improvisation, that's an extremely important connection.
Well, I enjoy the fact that the teachers who have participated in the classes that I have taken have been from different disciplines. We have physical education, Spanish, gifted and talented, 6th grade social studies, 6th grade language arts.
Within the Minerva courses, we would take pieces of text, sometimes short, by one author, sometimes some small articles by a couple of different authors, and spend a great deal of time reading, rereading, discussing, delving into them, looking at word choice, tone, mood, how it affects the author's message, how it connects to other pieces and themes and topics that are under discussion.
So there was a mixture of difficult nonfiction and fiction.
Well, we read novels, we read short stories, we read poetry, we saw videos, we saw films, we saw music videos, we saw authors speaking to us and sharing their points of view. So seeing all of that definitely helped us see different ways to look at the text.
The immersion into the text, perhaps interpretations of videos, or even pictures, graphics.
And text in general takes many forms. So movies and taped interviews and shows, we even watched cooking shows and reality shows, video games, they all have some elements or some core components of expository text.
The integration of technology has been incredible, and I know particularly with your courses how you teach them through video clips and always using technology. I have seen a huge increase in the way that's being done in the classroom.
I know it's helped me, having had some Minerva courses initially as an administrator, and then as we continued to work with Minerva, as the Common Core came in and we began to read about it and take a look at it, the connection became very obvious.
I think Minerva was ahead of the game as far as, because before the Common Core actually came out to being adopted, Minerva was always already ahead of the curve.
One of the things that we found when the Common Core first came out was that it wasn't as scary to some of my teachers that have taken Minerva classes. Minerva classes model the use of multiple teaching techniques.
their flexibility to add to the standards is the cultural understanding and having a depth of students being able to read seminal U.S. documents, and Minerva contextualizes all of that beautifully so that they are not only reading complex text that has depth, but it also teaches them not only the cultural pieces that they need to know, but the history.
And we would look at different texts side by side, comparing and contrasting viewpoints, looking at where the author's head may have been at the time that the text was created.
Whether it's a novel or whether it's an actual story from a certain culture, you know, what's the meaning behind that, or where might those ideas have come from? Even like today, we talked about the Trinity within the Snow White, you know, that might be modeling after a certain culture's religion or something like that.
The Common Core training that we're doing is actually looking at the Common Core, dissecting it, and then mapping out what it would look like. Where here we're already being involved in it with our learning so that we can bring it back, and then you can actually see, oh, we're already doing it, so it's not going to be as hard as people might think it is.
I think that a training by nature, depending on how it's done, is somewhat disconnected. It's not necessarily an authentic experience. It might give you the information, but the application is missing.
It's completely different than traditional professional development that we have grown up with as educators. You know, we see the sit and get. We've been exposed to this year's new thing. We have the opening conference day, gurus come in and leave, and there's nothing sustainable about any of that professional development. I think with the professional development that we've been exposed to recently through Minerva, it allows for that sustainability.
Very much unlike the traditional sit in a room, how to paperwork trainings that I've seen in the past.
If I take a course on, you know, a particular cooperative learning strategy, that might be a one-time deal. I might use it once, I might not use it, but when I take a 36-hour series of courses on belief systems that are held throughout the entire year, it becomes job embedded, it becomes something that stays with me every year, and something that I'm able to use with my students, to share with my colleagues. It just informs my teaching, it informs my being, and that's a huge difference between a Minerva course and most professional development courses.
But if you don't use heavy content, if you don't really get into an application of what you've learned, then I think you lose a big portion of what you want people to do. And as I read these, and I read just the goals that were set as standards, when I read what's in there, it's amazing stuff. It's great stuff. It's terrifically well done. The problem is that you just can't get there by teaching skill. You got to have the content, and you got to have the application.
That the nature of the courses and the depth of the courses would really help teachers, will help any educators who were taking part in it, be able to really see what it was to be a learner and really concentrate on all the strategies that were being used to really investigate very deep content.
And based on the cycle of education, many teachers come into the field without having that background.
That's right.
So it's a missing link for many people.
I mean, there's other professional developments that do a great job, but I wouldn't necessarily say they're as all-encompassing as Minerva is. Sometimes they might look at one type of strategy, whereas you guys are every lesson, multiple strategies to pull apart tech.
The content might be Islam, but we're doing that through a variety of media sources. We're reading different texts, we're having group discussions, we're looking at things as various as comic books even.
And at the same time, it's exposing us to instructional strategies that really are linked to the Common Core.
Most of us would like very much to teach our students to convey experience, to explain, to persuade, to read literature, and establish cultural connections between that literature and themselves, the world, and their own nation.
I think a lot of times students can't make meaning of what they're doing, but this touches on so many human ideas and human thoughts and feelings and fears and anxieties throughout time. So I think that kids can make more connections to their real world as well as be more interested. I know personally I'm very interested in the topics. I don't feel like it's a long 3-hour class.
Most scholarship, my own included, I admit, focuses on particular aspects of a work. It contributes to the general discourse, but it doesn't really knit together the general discourse and show how it applies to our lives right here, right now. The Minerva classes do that.
They're going to learn above and beyond just bringing it to the classrooms. They're going to bring it to their own lives, and that's like a true, I think, full 360 of learning.
In professional development, you want not only the particular information that is going to be conveyed, you want a good teacher, a good facilitator, not only talking about how to teach this work, but modeling how to teach the work.
I really think this is the way education should be approached. You take the content, you take an area, and you open it up for full discussion, and then you bring in the skills as well. So that, and you're using also a variety of media approaches.
Because if you allow teachers the time and invest the resources into delivering a professional development that is high level to the point where they are actually engaging in new content, but also in a way that exemplifies what we want to be delivered in the Common Core, it will have a tremendous impact if everyone was going down that same path at the same time.
It would definitely elevate the bar in terms of our ability to be teachers who promote critical thinking, because we're actively doing it ourselves.
Teachers are only going to be able to teach as well as they can understand and wrap their heads around things. So if we can make it easy for teachers to be able to have both the conceptual and the content knowledge to launch themselves into the work with their students, that everybody wins.
If we are moving forward with the Regents Action Plan as it is exactly right now, this isn't like a different pathway to get there. This is the pathway to get there.